In today's video, I'm going to show you how to crochet a triangle granny stitch banner. So we're going to create the triangles, put a nice little scalloped edge around it, and then create a chain where we just single crochet across the top of all of our triangles to connect everything together, and you'll have a nice festive little banner, bunting, garland for any holiday or any time of the year. It is the 4th of July here in the US, so I thought what a perfect quick project for me to make to kind of make my house just a little bit patriotic, festive for the holiday. You can of course use any color that you have around. You can use any hook. If you use a larger hook, your triangles will turn out a little bit larger. If you use a smaller hook and a finer weight yarn, you will have much smaller triangles. So I'm going to gather up my yarn and my hook, and we will crochet the granny stitch triangle bunting. For this project, I am using some Red Heart Super Saver. It's just a 4-weight acrylic yarn. I have a little bit of red, white, and blue for my granny triangle bunting garland. I am using a 5mm crochet hook. You'll also need scissors and a yarn needle. We're going to start with a magic ring. And if you don't like the magic ring, you can always chain 3 or 4 and slip stitch back into the first chain to create your ring. We're going to start with a chain 3. I'm going to work 2 double crochets into that ring. That chain 3 that we did to start counts as a double crochet. You have 1, 2, 3 double crochets. That is your first granny shell. We're going to chain 2, and this is the corner, and work 3 double crochets right back into that ring to create our second granny shell. You can now pull on your end to close up that magic ring, and you've got the start of your granny triangle. This is going to be our top edge, and our triangle is going to extend out down here and down here with our very bottom point down here. Every row is worked exactly the same, so this is a very quick pattern to work up. We always start with a chain 3, turn, and right back into that same stitch that we chained 3 out of, we're going to work 2 double crochets, and that will give us a granny shell on the very end. We're going to skip to that chain 2 space, and we're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet all into that space. So you work your 3 double crochet to start into that space, and that's your first granny shell. Chain 2, and right back into that same space work another granny shell, so 3 double crochet. We're going to find the space right on in between our sort of end double crochet and those 2 double crochets from this last granny shell, and right into that space we're going to work 3 double crochet to get our granny shell on the very end. You can see it's kind of becoming a larger triangle. For each row, you're going to start with a chain 3 and turn, find that stitch that you chained out of, and work 2 more double crochets into it. We're going to skip that granny shell here, find the next kind of space in between your granny shells, and you're going to work a granny shell. So 3 double crochets into that space. skip those shells, find the next space. This happens to be our corner turning space. We're going to work 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, all into that space. Skip over the next granny shell, find the next space, and work 3 double crochet into that space. Once you're at the end, you're going to find the space in between double crochets on the very end and just work your granny shell, so 3 double crochets into that space to complete each row. So you're going to work that pattern until you've done this for any even amount of rows. You count your rows by the shells. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to work 3 more rows to get a total of 6 rows, and then I'm going to show you how to put on a little scalloped border if you want, and then we will attach all of these together into a nice bunting. I've worked 6 rows. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you want to add a scalloped border, I'm going to show you how to do that. You can also single crochet around to the point and then back up, or you can just leave it. Personal preference. If you wanted to do the scalloped border, we're going to start with a chain 1 and turn. Into that same stitch, we're going to work a single crochet. We're going to skip over to that first space in between our shells, and we're going to work 5 double crochets into that space. Those 5 double crochets will give us a little bit of a scalloped border. Into the next space, work a single crochet. Skip to the next space, 5 double crochets. Next space, single crochet. I've got one more space before my chain 2 space, that corner. So into this space here, we're going to work our 5 double crochets. And this is why it's important to have an even number of rows so these scallops work out in this way. Into that corner chain 2 space, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 3, and work a picot. So you want to find that base stitch from your chain 3 and just work a single crochet into that, and then work one more single crochet into your chain 2 space. Moving up the other side, our next space, we're going to work 5 double crochets. Next space, a single crochet. Next space, 5 double crochets. Next space, a single crochet. Our last space before the very end, we're going to work our 5 double crochets. and right into that end space between our double crochet on the end and that double crochet in the middle of our shell. We're just going to work a single crochet. I'm going to chain one and cut my yarn. Fasten off. I'm going to go ahead and quickly weave in my ends, and then I will show you how to join these up into a nice bunting garland that you can hang up for any holiday. So I've got 2 red granny triangles, 2 white granny triangles, and 2 of these dark blue granny triangles. You're going to lay out all of your triangles into whatever repeating order or any order that you want. So for me, it's going to be red, white, and blue. You're going to grab the yarn that you're going to use to chain and join all of these at the top. You can really use any size hook. I'm just going to stick with my 5mm crochet hook to join all of these. Because these triangles are essentially reversible, you can use any side. The granny stitch tends to be very reversible. There's really no right and wrong side with that stitch. And same with that scalloped edge. You've just worked double crochets, so you can kind of tell that there is a front side and a back side, but it's really not noticeable. So I'm going to go ahead, lay out all of my triangles, grab my joining yarn, and then we will join these all together. I'm just going to be using red since I have it right here. You want to start with a slip knot on your hook. I like to start by chaining 15. And then slip stitching to that very first chain, and that kind of gives me an end ring or a hook so these can hang up nicely. Now you're just going to chain as many chains as you want before your first triangle. So I'm just going to go ahead and chain a bunch. Keep track of this number so you know how many to chain on the other side before doing your finishing loop. Once you have the number of chains that you want in between your loop and your first granny triangle, you're going to pick up your first triangle, and all we're going to do is just single crochet across the top, you just kind of want to find spaces and just work those single crochets across that top. See, there's our point. You're going to be working across the top, just working single crochet It goes by super fast because you're just kind of working those single crochets along the top. There's no stitch count to keep track of. It's a little difficult working right into the center of that where we started each triangle, but otherwise should be smooth sailing all the way across. And then you want to end as close to the corner as you can. So now we've got our chain, our loop, our chain, and we have single crocheted across the top of our first triangle. At the end, you're just going to work chains, as many chains as you want before you add your next granny shell stitch triangle. And you're going to pick up your next one. And I like to try to get right in that corner. Make sure that your point is down, pointing towards you, so you know which way to go. And just single crochet all the way across the top. You just want to make these as even as possible across the top. And then into a corner stitch, as close to a corner stitch as you can get. This one's a little bit tight since this is one of the ends where I had ends to weave in, so it's a little bit tight right there. You've got something like this, and then there's the one we started with. I'm going to grab my blue. I'm going to work all of these up in the same way, and then to finish, you're going to chain as many as you did to start, add an extra 15, slip stitch back into the 15th chain, create that loop, weave in these little ends. You can always just tie them really tight instead of taking a yarn needle and weaving those in. I like to just tie a knot or two right at the very base of that loop, and then you've got a nice granny shell bunting garland, perfect for a little festivity around any holiday or really any time of the year. I've got all of my little triangles sewn together with just a single crochet stitch across the top as part of the chain. Works up super fast, super easy. If you're looking for a project to use up some of the extra yarn that you have in your stash, this is a wonderful idea for that. You can make these 6 rows long like I did. You can make them 8 rows, 10 rows. You can make really big triangles. You can even make them 4 rows, a really small triangle. You can mix and match the sizes. As long as you have an even number of rows, that scalloped edge will work. I'm going to go hang this up and see how it looks. And until next time, thanks so much everyone for watching, and happy crocheting, happy 4th of July to my US friends, and happy Friday to everyone out there. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.